Wealth starts inside. Upgrade your identity before your income. Written by Ronnie Rowland. Published by Growth Literacy Lounge. Most people try to fix their finances by fixing their finances. They chase new income streams, devour productivity hacks, and double down on hustle, only to end up circling the same frustrations. Because they're focused on the fruit, not the root. The real breakthrough isn't in the next strategy. It's in the next version of you. Wealth doesn't begin with dollars. It begins with identity. Before money ever lands in your account, your self-image has already decided how you'll earn, hold, or sabotage it. Your financial ceiling isn't made of market forces or bad luck, it's shaped by what you believe you deserve, what you're allowed to ask for, and how safe it feels to succeed. Upgrade that inner blueprint, and the outer results follow. James Allen once wrote, "You do not attract what you want. You attract what you are." That one sentence holds the essence of this entire book. What you are, at the level of belief, behavior, and being, sets the temperature for everything in your life, especially your finances. Raise the setting, and you raise the standard. This isn't about pretending to be someone you're not. It's about becoming fluent in the identity of the person you're meant to be, the one who already lives with clarity, peace, and abundance. That version of you is not a fantasy. They are a blueprint. And this book is the process of stepping into that design. If you're ready to stop chasing and start aligning, keep reading. Because wealth doesn't start when the money arrives. It starts the moment you decide to become the person who knows what to do with it. Chapter 1. The thermostat of wealth. Every financial result in your life is a reflection, not a random event. It's a product of an internal setting, quiet, persistent, and powerful. Like a thermostat in a room, your identity sets the temperature of your financial experience. Opportunities may enter, windfalls may occur, but without a shift in that setting, you'll unconsciously regulate your life back to what feels familiar. This is why people who suddenly earn more often end up with the same struggles they had before. The external changed, but the internal setting remained the same. Think of someone who wins the lottery. They receive a massive surge in income, but within a few years, many return to financial stress or even bankruptcy. It's not because they lacked money. It's because they lacked the identity to sustain it. The thermostat had not been raised. The same happens in business, careers, and relationships. When someone's self-image says "I barely get by," they'll find ways, consciously or not, to return to that level. Not because they want to fail, but because success outside the boundaries of identity feels unsafe. Contrast that with someone who builds wealth slowly. They start with very little, but over time, their habits, beliefs, and environment align with growth. As income increases, so does their self-concept. They don't just earn more, they become someone who believes they can hold more. Their thermostat adjusts upward. They step into a version of themselves who expects growth and sustains it. The money doesn't make them worthy. Their belief system allows them to behave in ways that attract and protect wealth. Your identity is not just a mindset. It's a command center. It directs how you interpret opportunities, how you handle risk, and how you respond to success. If your internal narrative says, "I'm always behind," then no matter how much money you earn, that belief will find a way to confirm itself. The thermostat kicks in. You'll spend what you don't need to, avoid what you should confront, and miss chances that don't match the story you've rehearsed for years. The key is not to force external results and hope they change how you feel. The key is to begin within. You change the temperature setting by shifting the self-concept. You begin to see yourself as someone who builds, who multiplies, who sustains, not out of arrogance, but out of alignment. You adopt the thoughts, language, and behavior of the future version of you, not as an act, but as a rehearsal. You're not faking anything. You're practicing something new until it becomes natural. Changing your financial life is not just about adding information. It's about upgrading your foundation. Without a new internal setting, new money becomes old patterns. But with a new internal setting, even small changes grow exponentially. You don't need to wait until you have more. You need to become someone who knows what to do with more. That shift changes the rules. It doesn't just alter your income, it transforms your capacity to hold and multiply it. Wealth begins the moment you stop treating money like a goal and start treating identity as the source. Raise the setting, and the results follow. Your financial identity sets the baseline for your results. Without internal alignment, external changes are temporary. Lasting wealth starts with an identity shift, not a strategy. What belief is your current financial thermostat set to, and what setting are you choosing next? Write down your current financial temperature. Then write the new identity you're ready to embody. Reread it daily. Chapter 2: The Invisible Script. Every person carries a script, a silent, persistent narrative about what is possible, what is allowed, and what is expected in life. These scripts are not consciously chosen. They're absorbed, inherited, and rehearsed from an early age. They shape how you respond to money, how you think about wealth, and how you see yourself in relation to success. Most people never question the script. They just live it. And that's where the problem begins. Imagine watching a play where the actors don't know they're performing. The lines feel real, the scenes feel normal, and the outcomes feel inevitable. That's how most financial identities operate. The script was written years ago, sometimes in childhood, sometimes during moments of failure or shame. Someone said money doesn't grow on trees. Someone else implied that wanting more made you greedy. A mistake became a rule. A story became a ceiling. And that ceiling became your normal. Scripts are powerful because they operate below awareness. They don't shout. They whisper. When you consider investing in yourself, the voice says, "That's not for people like us." When you succeed, the voice whispers, "Don't get too comfortable." When you dream big, the voice laughs, "Who do you think you are?" These phrases may never be spoken aloud, but they're felt. They guide behavior, limit vision, and shrink potential. You don't rise above your script, you live out what it allows. That's why some people stay stuck despite reading books, attending workshops, or working harder. They're using new tools to build on old beliefs. And the structure always reflects the foundation. Until the internal story changes, the external reality returns to its pattern. But here's the truth: scripts are not destiny. They are drafts. They can be edited, challenged, and rewritten. The first step is awareness. Begin noticing the financial phrases you use. When something goes wrong, what do you say to yourself? When you see someone succeed, how do you interpret it? These responses reveal the lines you've memorized. Write them down. Make them visible. Because when a belief is named, it can be questioned. Next, trace the source. Where did this belief come from? Who gave it to you? Is it even true? Most of the time, the people who taught you to fear or resent money weren't evil, they were afraid. They were trying to survive. But their fear doesn't have to become your future. Recognizing the origin of a script allows you to release it without shame. Then begin to replace it. Not with fluffy affirmations, but with intentional truth. Instead of "I'll never get ahead," say "I'm building wealth from the inside out." Instead of "I'm not good with money," say "I'm learning how to master this." These new phrases don't just sound different, they carry a different energy. One of ownership, growth, and possibility. Repetition creates belief. The more you speak your new script, the more your subconscious adjusts. Over time, your identity rises to match your language. And your financial results follow. Your life is not a performance you're doomed to repeat. It's a story you have the power to rewrite. Change the script, and you change the ending. Scripts are inherited beliefs that shape financial behavior. Awareness and replacement of limiting narratives unlock new identity. Rewriting your internal dialogue creates external transformation. What old financial phrase or story are you still living by that no longer serves you? Write one outdated script you've been carrying. Replace it with a new, empowering statement. Speak it out loud each day this week. Chapter 3: Worthiness is Wealth. Wealth doesn't start with strategy. It starts with self-permission. Before you can build, earn, or multiply, you must believe you're worthy of receiving and sustaining. Without that belief, every win feels temporary and every step forward comes with a subconscious pull backward. The inner thermostat resets the outer result. And it all begins with how worthy you believe you are. Worthiness isn't something you earn through performance. It's a decision you make about how you choose to see yourself. People often postpone that decision, thinking it will come once the income appears or the validation arrives. But those external markers can't do the work your identity needs to do first. The money doesn't make you worthy. The worthiness makes the money manageable. When someone believes they are unworthy of success, their behavior aligns accordingly. They undercharge, avoid visibility, accept less, and hesitate to invest. They don't do this because they're lazy or incapable. They do it because their identity tells them that wealth belongs to someone else. Even when opportunities come, they find ways to reject or sabotage them. The internal ceiling enforces the external one. On the other hand, someone who owns their worth shows up differently. They carry themselves with quiet confidence. They make decisions from alignment, not fear. They're not louder, they're clearer. And that clarity changes how they price, how they lead, and how they receive. The foundation is not arrogance. It's rootedness. Worthiness isn't about perfection or superiority. It's about emotional safety. When you believe you're allowed to expand, you stop shrinking in moments that require boldness. You ask for more. You expect more. You become available to more. Your brain stops treating success as a threat and starts seeing it as the new normal. That's when transformation becomes sustainable. This belief must be practiced. It's not one empowering thought. It's a series of repeated, aligned actions. You prove to yourself that you're worthy every time you honor a boundary, speak with confidence, or follow through on a promise to yourself. These are not small moments. They are evidence. And evidence builds identity. You don't have to wait to feel worthy. You get to decide that you are. You get to interrupt the old story and replace it with one that makes space for abundance. That decision won't make you instantly wealthy, but it will make you ready. And readiness is the starting point for everything else. When worthiness leads, wealth follows. Not because the world suddenly changes, but because you do. Worthiness is a choice that shapes your ability to receive and sustain wealth. When you believe you're worthy, your actions naturally align with abundance. Small, consistent behaviors reinforce a rooted sense of value. Where are you still acting like you need to prove something before you can receive more? Write one sentence that affirms your worth. Speak it aloud every morning for the next 7 days. Let it guide your choices. Chapter 4: Meet your future self. There's a version of you who already lives with the peace, clarity, and abundance you've been working toward. They make decisions without second guessing, carry themselves with confidence, and respond to challenges from stability, not survival. They are not a fantasy. They are a future memory waiting to be activated. To reach that version, you don't force transformation, you practice alignment. Most people try to improve their lives by pushing from the present. They set goals, create plans, and work harder. But the faster path is to pull from the future. When you imagine your future self in detail and begin to behave as they would, you collapse the distance between who you are and who you're becoming. Identity stops being a destination and starts being a decision. Not a performance, but a rehearsal. The brain responds powerfully to imagination. Athletes mentally rehearse victories. Professionals visualize success before high-stakes moments. This isn't wishful thinking, it's neuropriming. When you imagine something vividly, your mind records it as an experience. And the more real it becomes internally, the more naturally your behavior shifts externally. What once felt out of reach becomes familiar. What once felt intimidating becomes expected. To activate this process, start by building a clear image of your future self. Picture how you start your mornings, how you speak in meetings, how you handle money, how you lead, rest, and invest. Add detail. What do you wear? How do you carry yourself? How do others respond to your energy? The more specific you are, the more power your vision holds. This isn't fantasy, it's formation. You're creating a blueprint your brain can follow. Then begin acting from that version of you now. Ask, how would my future self respond to this challenge? And respond accordingly. When faced with a choice, ask, what would the wealthy, grounded version of me do here? and follow through. These micro decisions send powerful signals to your subconscious. This is who I am now. And those signals begin to shift your default behavior, not through pressure but through identity. This alignment creates an emotional anchor. On hard days, you won't need to manufacture motivation. You'll return to your future self as a reference point. You'll remember that setbacks don't erase identity. They refine it. When you choose to act in alignment, even when it feels unfamiliar, you reinforce the new setting. That tension is the work. That repetition is the growth. The danger of not meeting your future self is staying loyal to the version of you that no longer serves where you're going. That loyalty shows up in hesitation, procrastination, and self-doubt. It whispers, "You've never done this before," and forgets that the future is always unfamiliar until it's lived. Your job is not to feel fully ready. Your job is to move in agreement with the future you're choosing to create. Transformation is not about waiting for the right moment. It's about creating the right mindset. Your future self is not waiting for permission. They're inviting you forward. When you meet them consistently, through vision, language, and aligned action, you don't just prepare for a better life. You begin to live it now. Your future self is a guide, not a fantasy. Acting from your future identity creates accelerated transformation. Clarity, rehearsal, and alignment collapse the distance between who you are and who you're becoming. What decision would your future self make today that you've been avoiding? Write a short letter from your future self describing one habit or belief that changed everything. Read it aloud each morning this week. Chapter 5: Identity in Action. What you do consistently reveals who you believe you are. Identity is not proven by words or intention, it's revealed in habits. Every choice you make, every routine you follow, every action you repeat casts a vote for the type of person you believe yourself to be. And those votes build your reality. If you want to change your life, you must first change the habits that reflect your identity. People often try to change their behavior without addressing the self-image behind it. They set goals, chase productivity, and build plans. But without an identity shift, those behaviors eventually collapse. The mind always seeks alignment. If your actions stretch beyond how you see yourself, the stretch becomes stress. But when behavior flows from identity, it feels natural. That's why sustainable change starts on the inside. Your future self isn't someone you become by accident. You become them by practicing their habits now. Ask yourself, what does the version of me who lives in alignment with wealth do each day? How do they manage time, handle challenges, and respond to opportunities? Their actions don't need to be complex. The power is in the consistency. Small, repeated behaviors create credibility with yourself. And that credibility shapes confidence. Repetition turns action into identity. Each time you follow through on a habit that supports your vision, you reinforce the belief that this is who you are now. One decision may not change much. But stacked over time, those decisions become identity. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is consistency that builds alignment between who you say you are and how you live. Start with one habit that reflects the version of you who holds wealth with confidence. Make it small enough to execute daily without resistance. Maybe it's tracking your spending, reading 10 pages, or waking up with purpose. When you do it consistently, it becomes more than a task. It becomes a reflection. And reflections shape belief. Every time you act in a way that contradicts your past and supports your future, you shift your baseline. The unfamiliar becomes familiar. The effort becomes easier. Over time, the habit no longer feels like something you're trying to do. It feels like something you naturally do because it's who you are. That's when transformation sticks. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your habits. And habits are always anchored in identity. If you believe you are someone who builds, leads, and sustains wealth, your behavior will reflect it. And when your behavior reflects it, your results will follow. You are always becoming. The question is whether your habits support the version of you you're becoming or the version you're trying to outgrow. Choose wisely because the repetition of identity-aligned action is how new realities are built. Habits reflect and reinforce your self-image. Consistent action aligned with identity creates sustainable transformation. Change begins when behavior and belief move in the same direction. What habit would your future self never skip, and are you practicing it now? Pick one habit your wealthy identity would practice daily. Commit to doing it every day for the next 7 days, no exceptions. Chapter 6: The Wealth Mirror Around You. Your environment is always speaking, even when you're not listening. It reinforces your identity by reflecting back what's normal, what's possible, and what's expected. If you want to elevate your life, you must examine the spaces and inputs that surround you because the environment isn't neutral. It either expands your vision or shrinks it. It either calls you forward or keeps you where you are. Look around your physical space. Does it reflect order, clarity, and growth? Or does it mirror confusion, stagnation, and survival? You don't need luxury to create alignment. You need intentionality. A clear desk, a room with light, and a well-organized budget spreadsheet, these are signals to your subconscious that say, I value progress. They send cues to your identity, reinforcing the belief that you're someone who creates structure and builds wealth with intention. Now look at your digital environment. Your phone, your browser, your feeds. Are they curated with precision or cluttered with noise? The content you consume becomes the thoughts you rehearse. Every time you scroll, you're training your brain. You're choosing what ideas get repeated, what language becomes familiar, and what worldview becomes dominant. If you're constantly surrounded by scarcity, comparison, or outrage, you're being shaped by those energies. But when you fill your digital space with wisdom, strategy, and expansion, your identity begins to stretch. Then there's your relational environment, the people you interact with daily. Their mindset, habits, and language influence you more than you realize. You begin to mirror what you're exposed to most. If you're surrounded by those who normalize lack, excuse inaction, or resist change, you'll feel friction when you try to grow. Not because you're wrong, but because you're stepping outside the group's emotional baseline. Identity wants to belong. And if your belonging depends on staying small, expansion will always feel like betrayal. That's why it's vital to intentionally build an environment that reflects your next level, not your current one. This doesn't mean abandoning people or becoming rigid. It means noticing what supports your evolution and what stunts it. When you choose to be around people who expect excellence, speak possibility, and practice responsibility, your sense of what's normal begins to shift. Their language becomes familiar. Their behavior starts to feel available. And before long, their standards become yours. Creating an aligned environment isn't a single decision. It's a daily discipline. You choose the books on your shelf. You choose the conversations you entertain. You choose what you allow into your space. And those choices create the echo chamber that either reinforces your past or accelerates your future. Wealthy identity isn't just built in solitude. It's shaped by surroundings. Audit your space. Curate your inputs. Expand your circle. Then reinforce it all with one guiding question: does this reflect the person I'm becoming? If the answer is no, change it. Not someday. Now. Because your environment will either affirm your new identity or keep dragging you back to the old one. The world around you is a mirror. Adjust the reflection, and the image looking back will begin to change. Your environment reflects and reinforces your identity. Physical, digital, and relational surroundings either support growth or maintain limitations. Intentional spaces help normalize the behavior and beliefs of your future self. What part of your current environment no longer reflects who you're becoming, and what needs to shift? Choose one area, physical, digital, or relational, and make one bold change today that aligns with your wealth identity. Chapter 7: The Power of Expanders. Some people change your life without trying. Not because they give you advice, but because they live in a way that makes the life you want feel real. These people are called expanders. They show you, through their presence and choices, that more is not only possible, it's normal. And when something becomes normal in your nervous system, it becomes available in your reality. We're wired to learn by example. As children, we mirrored behavior to survive. As adults, we still do, but with more complexity. The beliefs we hold about what's possible are often borrowed from what we've seen. If no one in your life ever built wealth with integrity, navigated success with peace, or turned vision into reality, then those things may feel out of reach. Not because they are, but because they've never been close enough to touch. That's why expanders are essential. They bridge the gap between your current self and your future self. They allow you to borrow belief. When you see someone living a life that aligns with your deepest goals, your subconscious says, if it's possible for them, it might be possible for me too. That shift is powerful. It changes how you dream, how you act, and what you expect. Expanders don't have to be people you know personally. They can be authors, speakers, leaders, or mentors you follow from a distance. The key is exposure. Proximity matters more than access. You don't need to be best friends with someone to be shaped by their standard. You just need consistent interaction with their mindset, language, and decisions. That exposure stretches you. It rewires your emotional baseline. It makes growth feel familiar instead of foreign. Sometimes, expanders will trigger discomfort before they inspire hope. You may feel jealousy, resistance, or insecurity. That's not a sign to retreat. It's a sign that your current identity is being challenged. Sit with it. Ask what their life is revealing about what you believed was off limits. Let their example stretch your imagination instead of shutting you down. The discomfort is part of the expansion. Be deliberate in choosing your expanders. Look for people whose success matches your values. Integrity matters. So does energy. The goal isn't to chase influence, it's to normalize authenticity and alignment at a higher level. Pay attention to how they handle failure. Observe how they talk about money, purpose, relationships, and responsibility. Their example is more than inspiration. It's education. Over time, what once felt aspirational will start to feel accessible. Your conversations will shift. Your decisions will sharpen. You'll take risks that reflect your new normal, not your old limitations. And eventually, without forcing it, you'll become an expander yourself. Others will see something in you that stretches them. They'll witness your alignment, your peace, your growth, and something in them will say, maybe that's possible for me too. Expansion is contagious. Surround yourself with it. Seek it out. Study it. Let it recalibrate your standard. Because when your vision is supported by living proof, your identity rises to match. Expanders are people who normalize what you want to believe is possible. Proximity to expansion rewires your emotional and mental baseline. Exposure to higher standards triggers growth, not competition. Who in your world already lives in alignment with your next level identity? And how can you learn from them? Choose one expander to intentionally observe this week. Study their habits, mindset, and language. Let their life stretch your sense of what's normal. Chapter 8: Rewiring the Roots. Beliefs don't begin as truth. They begin as repetition. A phrase overheard in childhood, an experience that went wrong, a pattern that formed under stress. Over time, these impressions sink beneath awareness and become roots. And like roots, they anchor everything above. If you want to change your financial future, you can't just trim the branches. You must rewire the roots. At the center of every financial decision is a belief about worth, about possibility, about identity. If that belief says money is hard, or people like you don't get ahead, or wealth is dangerous, then your actions will quietly match, no matter how much you desire change. The script beneath the surface always wins. This is why change feels so difficult. Because you're not fighting behavior. You're challenging belief. But here's the good news: beliefs are not permanent. They are not cement. They are software. And software can be rewritten. The brain is wired for change through a process called neuroplasticity. The more a new thought is practiced, the stronger the pathway becomes. You are not stuck with what you inherited. You are equipped to rebuild what you actually want. The first step is awareness. Listen to your internal dialogue. Pay attention to how you speak about money, goals, risk, and success. When you hit a financial ceiling or pull back from opportunity, ask, what belief is driving this? Name it. Once a belief is exposed, it loses much of its hidden power. Next, question the origin. Where did this belief come from? Was it your parents? A mistake you made? A moment you misinterpreted? Often, what feels like truth is just unchallenged experience. Recognizing the source allows you to separate identity from inheritance. Then, replace the belief with intention. Create a new statement that aligns with the person you're becoming. If the old belief was, "I'm just not good with money," the new one might be, "I am capable of learning and mastering wealth." Speak it aloud. Write it down. Use it in decision-making. This isn't about faking confidence. It's about planting seeds for a different future. Repetition creates reinforcement. Every time you act in alignment with the new belief, you create evidence. The brain responds to proof. The more you prove your new identity to yourself, the more natural it becomes. Over time, belief becomes reflex. This process takes patience. Old roots don't vanish overnight. They show up when you're tired, triggered, or uncertain. Don't resist them with shame. Meet them with clarity. Say, "That's the old story. I'm writing a new one now." Keep going. Changing your financial life isn't just about action. It's about editing the internal script that drives every choice. When you change the root, the fruit changes too. Wealth doesn't just grow in spreadsheets. It grows in the soil of your mind. Beliefs are learned patterns, not fixed truths. Awareness, origin tracing, and intentional replacement begin the rewiring process. Repetition turns new beliefs into identity, and identity into outcomes. What belief have you outgrown, and what truth will you replace it with? Identify one limiting belief. Write its origin, rewrite its replacement, and practice repeating it daily for 1 week. Chapter 9. Speak like the wealthy. Words don't just describe your world, they shape it. The language you use reflects your identity and reinforces it, silently scripting the results you allow, pursue, and expect. If you want to change your financial life, one of the most powerful places to begin is with your vocabulary. Speak differently, and you start to believe differently. Believe differently, and your behavior follows. Most people speak in ways that limit them without realizing it. They say things like, "I'm terrible with money," or, "That's too expensive for someone like me." These phrases seem harmless, even honest, but they reinforce a lack and embed it deeper into identity. The subconscious listens closely. Over time, the words you repeat become the walls of your reality. You begin to act, decide, and expect within the limits those words create. Wealthy individuals tend to use language that reflects agency, not helplessness. They say, "I'm choosing not to spend on that right now," instead of, "I can't afford it." They say, "I'm investing in my growth," instead of, "I'm splurging." Their words match the mindset of leadership, not limitation. And it's not about pretending, it's about practicing a language that aligns with abundance. To shift your language, you must first become aware of it. Notice the phrases you use when talking about money, success, or your own capabilities. Write them down without editing. Then ask, do these words reflect the person I'm becoming, or the person I've been? This awareness is the first step toward change. Next, replace those phrases with empowered alternatives. Instead of "I'm broke," try "I'm rebuilding." Instead of "I never get ahead," try "I'm learning to manage opportunity." These shifts might seem subtle, but they matter. They teach your brain to see yourself as capable, growing, and worthy. Over time, the new language becomes your new identity. Speaking like the wealthy also means being intentional in conversation with others. Pay attention to how you talk about your goals, your value, and your vision. Do you speak with confidence or downplay your potential? Do you use humor to deflect or truth to declare? The way you speak about yourself is a signal, to others and to your own subconscious, about what you believe is possible. This is not about fake positivity or forced affirmations. It's about alignment. Your words should rise to meet your vision, not shrink to match your fears. When your language reflects your future instead of your past, you pull that future closer. You stop responding from lack and start leading from abundance. Change your words and you change your world. The shift won't happen overnight, but every sentence is a seed. Plant wisely, speak boldly, and let your vocabulary become the soil where your wealth identity grows. Language reinforces identity and silently shapes your financial behavior. Shifting from disempowering phrases to aligned language rewires belief and decision-making. Speaking like the wealthy is about clarity, ownership, and vision alignment. Which common phrase do you say that reinforces limitation, and what could you replace it with? Write down 3 disempowering money phrases you use. Replace each with an empowered alternative and practice using them this week. Chapter 10: Vision is a wealth tool. You cannot build a future you cannot see. Vision is more than imagination, it is the internal compass that guides identity, behavior, and ultimately, results. Without vision, you drift. With it, you decide. And those decisions compound into a new reality. Wealth begins long before you hold it in your hands. It begins in how clearly you can picture the version of yourself who already holds it. Most people don't lack intelligence or effort. They lack direction. They chase tactics without a target and wonder why their efforts lead to frustration. Vision gives your mind a destination. Like a GPS, it requires a clear input. Without it, you're just circling. But when you create a vivid mental image of who you're becoming, how you think, live, and lead, your choices begin to align naturally with that image. This isn't just philosophy. It's science. Studies show the brain responds to visualization much like it does to real experience. When you imagine your future self in detail, your nervous system begins adapting as if that identity already exists. That's the power of internal rehearsal. It teaches your body and brain to believe what hasn't happened yet, which influences the way you speak, decide, and act today. Your vision must be identity-based. It's not just about what you want to have. It's about who you want to be. What kind of person handles wealth with wisdom? What kind of thinker builds with patience? What kind of leader multiplies impact without losing peace? When you answer those questions, you move beyond surface-level goals and into the substance of transformation. Craft a personal vision statement that speaks to the deeper version of you. Write it in the present tense. Describe how you carry yourself, what you value, and how you move through the world. Make it emotional, specific, and vivid. This isn't for inspiration. It's for recalibration. Read it aloud daily. Let it anchor your decisions and reset your self-concept. Vision also filters your environment. When something doesn't match your future identity, it starts to feel off. You begin to notice conversations, commitments, or habits that no longer fit. That discomfort is not a problem. It's proof that your vision is becoming more real than your past. The friction is part of the shift. Without a clear vision, the pull of the past remains stronger than the pull of the future. But when your future becomes more emotionally compelling than your current comfort zone, your actions begin to change automatically, not through force, but through alignment. You're not chasing success, you're becoming the kind of person who attracts it. Wealth is not built solely through strategies. It's built by people who see it clearly, feel it deeply, and align with it consistently. Your vision is your blueprint. Honor it, practice it, and let it lead you forward. Vision creates direction, clarity, and emotional alignment with future identity. Identity-based vision has more staying power than outcome-only goals. Daily visualization strengthens belief and shapes aligned behavior. Can you describe your future self so clearly that your present actions feel obvious? Write a 1-paragraph identity-based vision and read it aloud each morning for 7 days. Let it guide your choices. Chapter 11: Responsibility as wealth. Soil. Wealth doesn't grow in chaos. It grows in structure, and that structure is built on responsibility. Responsibility is not a burden, it is the soil where sustainable abundance takes root. Without it, even the best opportunities will wither. With it, small beginnings can multiply. If identity is the seed, responsibility is what makes it flourish. Taking responsibility means owning what's within your control. It means refusing to outsource your results to luck, timing, or other people. It's not about blame. It's about leadership. Blame says someone else is at fault. Responsibility says, regardless of fault, I choose to respond with power. That shift changes everything. Because when you see yourself as the driver, not the passenger, your behavior upgrades to match. Wealthy people don't have perfect lives. They make imperfect decisions and face challenges like anyone else. The difference is in their posture. When something goes wrong, they ask what they can learn. When faced with uncertainty, they move forward with intention. They take responsibility not just for their actions, but for their mindset, their energy, and their future. That habit of ownership creates trust, with themselves, with others, and eventually with money. Avoidance is the enemy of growth. When you avoid hard conversations, overdue bills, or uncomfortable truths, you leak power. And where power leaks, results suffer. Responsibility doesn't always feel good in the moment, but it produces peace, clarity, and momentum over time. It moves you from reaction to response, from excuses to execution. You don't need more money to start practicing responsibility. You start with what you have. Take inventory. Are you managing your finances with clarity? Are you using your time with purpose? Are you taking care of your physical and emotional well-being? Every small act of stewardship builds the muscles required to handle more. When you prove you can manage the little, the bigger is no longer withheld, it's invited. Responsibility also means holding yourself to a higher standard, even when no one's watching. It's not about pressure. It's about self-respect. When you know who you're becoming, you treat your choices as sacred. You honor commitments. You say no to what doesn't fit. You move from discipline, not punishment but purpose. That's the kind of responsibility that builds wealth from the inside out. Many people want to skip this step. They chase shortcuts or avoid discomfort. But what they miss is that responsibility isn't just preparation, it's transformation. It's the practice of becoming the kind of person who can hold more without collapsing. The kind of person who doesn't just make money, but multiplies and sustains it. Because wealth isn't just about gain, it's about growth. And growth demands responsibility. When you own your power, you own your path. And that ownership makes anything possible. Responsibility is the foundation where long-term wealth takes root. Ownership over mindset, habits, and choices unlocks sustainable growth. Avoidance leaks power, responsibility multiplies it. What area of your life needs more ownership, and what's one step you can take to reclaim it? Choose one neglected area, time, money, or mindset, and take one responsible action today to move forward. Take care and be well.